Today we're going to North America's biggest hand-built bike show in search of the most interesting rigs so we can ask them about their bikes.
Hey Fergus.
Hello.
Tell me about your bike.
Yes, this is the Garden City Confetti Falls. It's a track frame. The short and sweet of it is, I want to talk about your shoes. Garden City's the nickname for San Jose, where, gotta fix that. Garden City for San Jose, where Hellier Velodrome is, where I race. So when we did this, I wanted to be an homage to my community. The colorway comes from my mentor, this dude Terry Shaw, who's fundamental in helping me learn about track racing, and his team was Garden City Cycles, and their colors were purple and yellow. And so I wanted to reference that as kind of like a thanks to him and the community for helping me come up in track racing. It's a steel track bike, real track geo, but it has bottle mounts and brake holes. The joke that I've been telling people is 25-year-old Fergus would be like, oh, brake holes, but middle-aged Fergus knows that bombing down hills brakeless is scary, and people get thirsty. It can be a track bike, it can be a winter trainer, it can be a commuter, clearance for like 30-seat tires, and I've been jamming around Portland on it, and it's awesome. I love it. This is my street gear, 4918. I've always ridden 4918 on the street, even back in my mess days. Oh, and of course, Suntour Superbi Pro crankset and pedals. Is that it? Okay.
I'm Aller from Rodriguez Bikes over in Seattle. This is a quad tandem 8-ball. This is one of our specialties that we do. It's a 4-person tandem that can convert to a smaller tandem by removing middle sections. So this can go from a 4, 3, 2 to a 1. We originally made it as a tandem, just a regular double for a couple. And as they had kids, they had sections added to it. So you can remove middle sections and remove the cables and just splice other sections in. You don't need to adjust brakes, don't need to adjust shifting. They took this camping once and their trailer broke off the hitch and just went into the spokes, breaking like 6 spokes. He converted it to a single and rode the single into town like 30 miles, got the wheel fixed, and then rode back. They converted it back into a quad and then rode it out. They take this thing everywhere. It's a full SNS. It fits into 3 suitcases. At Rodriguez, we do the most SNS bikes in the world. So that's these couplers right here. Roll-off only does a 36 hole, but always gonna be a 26. A 700C would just fold. A Sturmey Archer drum up front. As the drag brakes are really common, so you just set this as a shifter and it would just constantly apply the brake for going downhill. These are Rodriguez Trillium big squeeze cantilever brakes, where the cable wraps all the way around for like a ton of braking power, and these are the main brakes. it's crazy.
Well, we got this beautiful Destroy track bike here. It's got a nice like true temper curve C2 with a coffin tube down tube and a nice teardrop top tube. We got a beautiful Chris King kick headset here with this crazy custom flaccid kind of limp stem. It's real twitchy, it kind of brings the bars about to the height of the top tube. The archetype wheel set with the 42-16 ratio and 75. It's a really fun bike, really fast. The wheelbase is like real, tucked. So it's pretty aggressive riding.
So this is a Bantam Bicycle Works Travelall that Bob Kamzelski of Bantam Bicycle Works built for me. Stainless steel top and down tubes. He debuted it at Made last year. It's Travelall Plus with the 27.5 by 2.8 wide tires. Roll-off speed hub, Gates carbon belt drive, the dynamo hub up front that powers the sunlight, headlight, and taillight, and the Hope brakes, stellar on this bike. It take your breath away. Porsche good braking. Bob custom made my front and rear racks. Andy at Lord's Luggage made the beautiful bags for it. It's been an amazing daily commuter for me, and hopefully my son and I will get to go on some more bike packing trips because that's what this thing is built for. It's awesome. I'm super lucky to have this ride.
This is our latest iteration of the Reactor, which is our full-bore race bike. It is our attempt to create a titanium aero bike. To do that, we're kind of restricted by traditional titanium tube construction. It's sort of limited in what you can do aerodynamically. So this is actually a fully 3D printed titanium bicycle frame, save for the seat tube, which is a carbon ISP, which was developed and produced with our friend Ben of July Bicycles. So what we're trying to do is create a bike that's still going to feel and ride like a titanium bike, but has a lot of the aerodynamic benefits that you'll find in contemporary carbon aero bikes. We tried to make it formally. We just didn't want to replicate a carbon bike out of titanium. We wanted to give it a design language which speaks to it being a metal titanium bike. And we're pretty happy with how it turned out.
Hey, Steve here. I've got a beach club with the new Super Record Wireless. A beach club, they're kind of speakeasy when it comes to information about it. It's kind of tough to find info on the brand, but really great Columbus steel, made in Southern California. I got it from the guys over at Cub House over in San Marino. It's called a sellout because the previous version, they called it a discless road, ha ha ha, right? And they made all kinds of kind of wild statements about how they would never make a disc brake bike, but a week after they made those statements, this came out. And so they decided to call it a sellout to kind of, say that they were going to go along and get along with the new disc brake trends. Incredibly comfortable, stiff, kind of elegant as far as the design is concerned. The reason that I chose this group over other offerings was because I wanted it to be kind of classical and have a more heritage approach to it. And so I definitely wanted to go with Campagnolo and just kind of wanted to showcase that you could put it on anything as long as it had disc brakes. There's no hardwired power unit that usually sits inside of a seat post. There's no bar-in interface. There's no clunky charging box. And the wheels, I got a set of WTO, which stands for Wind Tunnel Optimized, Bora Ultras. Decreased amount of spokes, but an increased width in the rim bed. So it makes for a lighter, but yet stiffer wheel at the same time. I put some Ultra Dynamico Kava 33s on there. Yeah, as you can see, there's not a ton of clearance on that front tire, but I wanted to put the biggest ones I could put on there just for comfortability's sake. You gotta keep it playful, right? Great daily driver. I commute to work, pretty long commute. Yeah, it's really great.
This is my 1986 resto mod that I did. Frame got donated to the shop, and it's pretty rare that we get one donated in my size. And I just removed all the brazons on this, all the obsolete diver's caps, the brake loops on the top, and opted for modern brazons. So we got modern housing stops, modern split stops. Dimpled the rear end for more tire clearance, added cantilever studs because I don't want a caliper brake bike. Moved these bridges up, kept all the diamonds on there, kept everything on theme. Added this JTEC shift mate. So it goes from campy Daytona 10-speed shifters, but with 11-speed carbon blades for bling, to a Shimano 9-speed derailleur to shift a Shimano 10-speed cassette. And that was kind of a mouthful. It's just, yeah. I just had these wheels, these carbon wheels from Light Bicycles, and I just needed to put them on something, and this was my rim brake bike. So I just needed to make the Shimano campy thing work, Absolute black chain rings, Oval Revolution. Custom made this 1-inch fork for it, 1-inch threadless in 2024, bro. Insane. Actually insane. I slowed down the front end, 60 millimeter trail, just didn't want a twitchy front end. I mean, it's a gravel race bike. I didn't want it to be freaking out on the front. Also, mini V or V brake only. There's no hanger and there's no room for a hanger on there. So dedicated to the mini V gang. No rear rack mounts because I don't ever want to run a rear rack. A shutter precision dynamo. It's I think it's a 28-hole wheel, but they're skipping every other hole. I didn't build these, and I actually haven't really looked at them too much other than just to ride them. The brakes on this thing are the loudest things in the world. The TRP carbon brake pads on the basalt braking surface is the stinkiest thing in the world. If you're racing behind me, the tactic, if you're drafting me, is I'm gonna slowly poison you with whatever toxins are fucking coming off this thing. I mean, it is so smelly and so loud. I don't know how to mount a Garmin on this. So, because it's a 1-inch steerer and I can't put a top cap one. And my Garmin 1030 is too big for this stem. And then the front bag is in the way. So it's a faceplate mount mounted backwards. And it's perfect. Flared bars, 12 degrees, not too crazy. And we got a sine wave beacon. This is the beacon 1 on here. 750 lumens, baby. It's everything I could have hoped and dreamed. And a very modest 26 pounds with the rack and bag.
If you're enjoying yourself, feel free to subscribe. It only hurts a little.
My bike is a custom hot salad track bike. It's got Aura tubing in it, wonderful Paragon parts, and it's got a speed hole bridge in the back. So a lot of people love that detail from my titanium clunker a couple years back. We got a number 6 composites fork. We have White Industries headset, of course, American made. We also have Paul hubs. We have an Appleman crank, an Arn chainring. Of course, all the fixie kids love Arn. Ergon saddle, seat post, the most elegant seat post in my opinion. Paul stem, oddity bars. And I asked him to custom bend me these track bars. Bernsey is wonderful for his work doing those bars. I'm just so stoked. It is the fixie kid inside of my heart from my San Francisco fixed gear days that super wished that she could have had this bike. So I'm stoked to make it now.
This is a Falconer titanium. It is the 5th titanium frame that Cam has made, and it is a lot of fun. I have all the gears to do everything, and this thing's really big. Fit big tires, lots of titanium, and all the shiny silver bits that I could find and make. This wasn't shiny, but it is now. And Cam made the dropouts himself, so they like really hug the derailleur and look super tucked, because that's the word the kids use, right? Tucked.
I feel cute today. This is a single speed cyclocross bike I built. I can't remember. My concept of time is ridiculous. It was built as a pit cyclocross bike for the team that I sponsored and raced on at the time. Super simple, single speed, just like you need a bike in the pit, go for it. And then it was raced for many, many years, like a decade, eventually found its way back to me. I repainted it and did a couple little updates on it, and this is gonna be my single speed cyclocross race bike for the season. Old frame, lugged, old wound up fork. All the parts on it are used with the exception of the brakes. Envy bar and stem, Thompson Masterpiece, a seat post, ultra low friction cable housing on the rear brake line there. Very important to represent that. It's made to fit cyclocross tires, so 700 by 33. Challenge Grifos, because that's fucking what you do. Commuted to the bike show, and
Is this your show bike?
this is my show bike.
He's got the rack for the display bike on his back.
The saddle on this is a vintage SLR or without the padding. As Chris DiStefano told me once, comfort is not one of my interests.
This is my BMX-inspired mini velo cargo bike. It's also kind of a pit bike. A lot of BMX parts on it. Integrated front rack to carry some groceries or packages or whatever you can come up with. An 8-speed internal rear hub, dynamo front hub with a sine wave cycles dynamo light to go with it. I also have a cool Brooks Cambium on here that matches the paint scheme. Some SimWorks pedals that are quick release, so you can pull them off really easily if you want to travel with it or store it somewhere tight inside your house. Some Fairdale handlebars, Odyssey tires, cranks, BMX DRG sprocket, some really cool Paul Components brakes, limited edition colors on them.
Did you build this bike?
I built this bike. I built the fork, I built the frame, and the front rack too.
Wow.
And I think the front rack probably took more time than the frame and fork itself.
This is my Buendia steel all-road bike. It's got a rodeo spork fork. You can go fenders over 42s. You gotta have the frame pump like all cool custom bikes. It's got some wheels from the guys here locally at Hi-Fi. The paint color is Tangerine Scream. That's on the Ford Focus ST. I just happened to see one on a rainy day in Portland and it brightened my spirits, so I knew this bike would kind of make me excited to ride even on miserable days in the winter. SRAM Force 1x setup. We got this kind of hidden bell, which is a pretty neat thing that Greg's been doing on all his bikes. And then I got a dyno hub here on the front, so I don't have to charge lights. It's just always ready to go. Titanium cages. So one cool thing about all Greg's bikes, he does a custom head badge for all the customers. I do photography, and it's logo for the flash. Yeah, and he does all these embossed brass logos. Just a nice little detail.
This is a bike that is definitely not meant for two large humans. This is like the best friend test, where if you can ride this and you don't immediately crash, I guess you're immediately best friends. I think he's about 3 times taller than is intended for the front position of this. More about the attitude, not the mileage on the odometer. We're gonna U-turn, we're gonna run into Dustin, okay? Pink bikes are always best. Cargo bikes are always best. This satisfies both of those. Okay, I'm stopping. That was—
What's your name?
Eric. Cable steering, a Tioga Spider, which is the craziest thing to put on a bike like this. I'm sure you could put all sorts of groceries and toys and stuff in here.
Go in here?
The second child maybe goes in there, or the dog.
The dog.
Really beautiful bike. That's actually the oldest U-lock I've ever seen. Real talk though, I'm used to Omnium steering, and this immediately felt natural in a way that riding a Bullet or a Yuba or a big bucket I crashed a Bullet the first time I got on it because the steering feels so different. But this felt completely natural. I don't know why. You riding on the front felt completely natural. It's a good bike.
Tell me about your bike. Thighs will be bruised in no time. The brake is a suggestion. I'm not going anywhere quickly.
It's made off of a 1870 design, hand-built, and this is a 48-inch frame, and the builder builds a 50, 52, 54, or 56-inch wheel size. He builds 2 pieces a month.
This bicycle was created as a part of a mission to transport the lightest and most compact barbecue that we could find on the market, that market being Craigslist. And I said, well, we need to be able to transport fuel for the grill, mustard and sauerkraut to satisfy a small gathering of individuals, and the hot dogs to match. So there's typically a frame bag, but since we're stationary in this application, I figured we could omit it. This bicycle was made with tubing from our scrap bin. One of the most challenging bike rides that I've ever done was on this bicycle, and we rode it for about 60 miles in the Santa Cruz Mountains. I was on a heroic dose of mushrooms and weed edibles, and I've never been so high in my entire life. I wept on account of being a failure in the eyes of my mother, which I don't think is true. She's a wonderful woman. My father, who was a Predator drone, couldn't give a shit. Paul Component furnished the accoutrement, and the Weber Grill Corporation has pledged their support for this project. We intend to infiltrate most urban areas in the United States with barbecue bikes, seeing as the public needs a way to transport grill to various locations. You know, when you got the grill fired up, you got heat going directly up into the cradle for your hindquarters, and we needed a way to shield it from that high temperature. So this is just a fiberglass backed heat shield with an aluminum face, and I can give you, dear viewer, the McMaster part number should you require it, but other information is strictly classified.
Is that the first time you've had food cooked on a bike?
Nope. Not the first time.
Not the last time.
No, God, no.
Now, for those pure of heart and quick of wit who are looking for even more interesting builds, I've got you. They're right here. And I'm telling you, it will not disappoint. In fact, I'm going to watch it right now as well.
What do you call this color? I used to work for Nike. Under Armour would never. Please don't release a car in this color. PT Cruiser Pink. Yeah, that's it. Can we end this?